Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk Bloomington Normal. We've got so much to get to this morning. 6:06 a.m. I don't know if you guys got a whole lot of snow in Bloomington. If you go south a little bit, I was in Lincoln yesterday and we got a ton of snow. A ton as in like maybe a half an inch, less than an inch, but it was very, very beautiful type snow. It was like very flaky coming down. It's cold. It's freezing. In just a day or so, it's actually going to get up to like 47, I think, and then it's going to spike right back down to like 13 degrees. So the high tomorrow is 47 and the low is 13. But it was very beautiful snow. It was actually my puppy's first snow. She's never really seen snow before. And so we got her, I think, back in March, and it never like snowed. It was like just past that, period of where we get snowfall, and she's never seen it before. So she was outside and she was eating it. So it's very frustrating when I take her outside, to do her business, and I'm like, "Come on, let's go, dog. You gotta go." And she just doesn't go. She wants to eat the snow. So I'm out there for like 30 minutes, like shivering my butt off. And I'm like, come on, dog, come on. And she's out there just, eating the snow and enjoying herself. And I'm freezing. But text me 309-451-9299. Do you like the snow? Are you glad that it's back? I am not a fan. I'll just tell you that personally. All right, we've got to talk a little bit about this hot news. It's cold outside, but there's hot news today. So Geico employees, they're mandated to undergo mandatory pronoun training, which I don't know, maybe you have to do this kind of thing at your job and you can relate to the Geico employees. What would you do if you had to go through mandatory pronoun training? Yes, these Geico employees have to do that. If the word gets out, they're going to probably get the Target treatment or the Bud Light treatment. So they should probably stop with this mandatory pronoun training so that they don't lose policyholders or that they don't lose their customers. We're going to get to the New York governor, Kathy Hochul. She says, and she's claiming that she's going to deport illegals now. She actually came out loud and said that she wants to deport the illegals. Yes, that New York governor. I'm so confused. I'm just as confused as you are. I don't think she's actually going to do it. I think it's just grandstanding, and she's saying she's going to do it to make sure Trump, stays off her back. But New York governor is claiming she's going to deport the illegals now. I don't believe it for 1 second. But Donald Trump also chose Kash Patel as the new head of the FBI. And the main thing about the Kash Patel pick is that he is a representative of us. And Kash Patel wants to get in there, clean house. He wants to get all of the, swamp creatures out of the FBI. And he's representative of us. We don't have trust in the FBI. We don't have trust in that institution. And Donald Trump is putting people in who are representative of the American people. The American people do not trust the FBI. And Kash Patel doesn't trust the FBI. So I'm excited about this pick. I think that this is one of his best picks out of everybody. I mean, Marco Rubio was, I think he's going with a kind of carrot stick approach with the Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth is kind of more of the stick, and then Marco Rubio is more of the carrot, where he's like, politically correct and can kind of smooth things over diplomatically, whereas Pete Hegseth is kind of more of the bull and china shop type guy. So I'm excited for a lot of these picks. There is one pick that I'm not a fan of. It's the Surgeon General, the U.S. Surgeon General. Not a big fan of her. She was pro-mask, pro-vax mandates. Don't know why he picked her, Donald Trump, but that's the only pick that I'm not a fan of, really. Everybody else, I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's awesome. I really wanted Matt Gaetz. We talked about that a long time here on this program. You can find the archive show where, I don't know if he wanted to bow out and go into the private sector, which is why he put in his resignation. But he couldn't do it because he was under investigation via the ethics committee, and he couldn't resign in disgrace. I think he's got something cooking in the private sector, and he wanted to leave the public sector, especially after they've gone after him in such a vicious way and weaponized the government against him. Some people aren't cut out for that kind of thing. Donald Trump is, I would say, an outlier in that he, continues his career in politics despite having the justice system weaponized against him. Libs of TikTok, I want to get to this. They obtained a memo that shows Geico employees are now being forced to undergo pronoun training, as if that's something someone needs training on. Yes, their preferred pronouns. They're, have to have this mandatory training to put their preferred pronouns in their email signature. And I guess there's a training that goes along with that. I feel like it doesn't need to be like a training. You could probably just say you wanted everybody to put their preferred pronouns in their email signatures. You could probably just send out a memo like this one and be done with it. But I guess you have to attend a mandatory training as well as, this memo went out talking about how they want their employees to put pronouns in their email signature. So it's unclear, how this preferred, and it's really not a pronoun. I don't call it preferred pronouns. I call it preferred adjectives because that's really what you're doing here. It's not a pronoun. It's you virtue signaling and you trying to add an adjective in front of your name and you want a virtue signal. And it's more like preferred adjective training if you want to be technical with it, because you're just describing yourself. That's all it is. By saying oh, I'm a man and I want to go by she, her pronouns. Okay, you are attributing yourself to female attribute, or you want to be referred to as a female, and it's an adjective. You want to be described as a female. You're not a female. You want to be seen as a female and described as a female, and that is a adjective. They're descriptors. Okay, it's a description of who you are. And your gender is, describing your characteristics, your biological characteristics. And yeah, so it's not really pronouns, because there are no such things as preferred pronouns, because pronouns are, facts. Like, oh, that's she is over there. When you want to go by something else, you're just wanting a preferred adjective. You want somebody to refer to you as, a woman, and you're not a woman. So yes, they're going to be forced to put this in their email signatures. I want to flash this memo up on the screen. You guys can find me on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter. I'm live every morning on those platforms. Here's how the memo reads. Okay, I want to get this pulled up. It says, in instances where a customer uses incorrect pronouns, the same kind of clear, polite correction will work just the same. So then they insert like an example of what you should say if a customer mispronouns you or, uses the incorrect pronouns. I'm happy to help you today. I do want to let you know I use he, him pronouns. Let's see about adding your new car to your policy. Yes. So this is an example of what they're supposed to say, and they're instructed in this memo of how to respond to a customer who might use incorrect pronouns. One, it really doesn't matter. You're on the phone a lot of the time when you're talking with your insurance agent, right? So like, it doesn't really matter if I use incorrect pronouns. I'm not doing it to your face, and you shouldn't be upset. If you sound like a man, I'm probably going to say, thank you, sir. Or if you sound like a woman, I'm going to say, thank you, ma'am. And you probably shouldn't it shouldn't bother you that much. If something like that happened to me, it's never happened to me where somebody, mistakes my gender, because I kind of have a very feminine voice. It's kind of higher pitched. But if it were to happen to me, I probably would just brush over it if I was an insurance agent. Like if somebody said, thank you, sir, I'd probably be like, well, whatever, I just got to get this person an insurance policy. I'm never going to meet this person in face to face. I'm working with them over the phone. So why point out somebody's, incorrect behavior when it really doesn't matter? Because, oh man, you called me sir. Oh no, what? who cares? Okay, so this is a memo that was obtained by libs of TikTok, and they said, hey, if a customer uses an incorrect pronoun, this is how you should respond. I'm happy to help you today. I do want to let you know I use he, him pronouns. Let's see about adding your new car to your policy. Firstly, it's insane to declare one's pronouns because people don't tend to use them in one-on-one conversations. Like I said, sometimes I'll say thank you, ma'am, thank you, sir. I'll say that over the phone. Rarely do I use somebody's pronouns over the phone in a one-on-one conversation. Usually, when I'm referring to somebody else, I'll say she, he. But on a one-on-one conversation, I never use their pronouns. Secondly, it has nothing to do with car insurance. You can sell somebody car insurance and get past the fact that they might have used the wrong pronoun. It's not a requirement for them to use the correct pronoun in order for you to sell the car insurance and in order for them to buy the car insurance. Thirdly, it's not difficult for one to switch insurance companies. It's pretty easy. So I don't think that this whole mandatory pronoun training is going to help them this year. Meet their quotas and meet their goals of how much insurance they actually sell. They're likely going to get the Target treatment or the Bud Light treatment. The worst part is that all of this is forced on the employees. Okay, so the employees that don't care about pronouns or don't care about this whole LGBTQ plus IA ABCDEFG nonsense, they're forced to care. Okay, or they're forced because it's mandatory that they put the pronouns in their signature. So it doesn't matter that they couldn't care less about this crap. They're forced to care. These employees, and it sucks. I don't know what I would do in that situation. I'd say no, and I'd see how long I could go dodging the HR department. But in the case of Geico's HR department, they has yet to hear forced wokeness is unpopular, I guess. That I don't know why these companies continue to do this stuff, because we've seen what happens to Bud Light. We've seen what happens to Target because it's largely unpopular with the American people. This woke nonsense, the preferred pronouns nonsense, or that men can become women and women become men. It's very unpopular with the American people, and it never ends well when companies do things like this. So, without a doubt in my mind, I know that this is going to cost them customers. It always ends up that way, and people have likely already started canceling their policies. That's what the social media outrage is all about. Libs of TikTok, they obtained the memo, and I'm scrolling through the comments here, and everybody who had Geico had already canceled their policies. So time will only tell if this is going to break them, and how bad it's going to be for Geico. But yeah, I'm just gonna grab the popcorn and watch, because I know how this stuff ends. Every single time a company does something like this, there is a boycott. There is a fleeing from that company. The consumers flee from that company. So I'm gonna grab the popcorn and I'm gonna watch it play out. All right, I'm going to be right back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We are going to touch a little bit on Governor Kathy Hochul. She informed the world and the state that she was going to welcome these illegal immigrants with open arms back in 2021. Okay, but now she's getting out there and she's saying that she is going to deport these illegals. I don't believe it for a second. But it's really weird that she's come out and said this now, that she is going to be the first one to deport the illegals. I think she's doing it because she wants to avoid Donald Trump at all costs and interaction with Donald Trump. And she might think that he'll leave her alone in that state, and his ICE won't come in, and his guys, the feds, won't come in and deport all of them if she says, oh, I'm going to be the one to deport them, and then she doesn't actually do it. Which is a poor plan. But we'll have to see what happens in New York. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she actually does carry out deportations. But New York Governor Kathy Hochul says she will personally call ICE to deport the illegal criminal aliens. and she tells people to come to America legally, which is the first time we've ever seen her do that. Because back in 2021, she said, "I'm going to keep the migrants safe. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to house them, and no human is illegal." Right? That's what she said consistently up to this point. So I don't know what's the change of heart, what's going on there with Kathy Hochul. We'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk, Bloomington Normal. Yeah, really strange. I don't know about y'all, but I think it's kind of weird that Kathy Hochul has had like a sudden change of heart. We're gonna play this. She says that she's personally gonna call ICE to deport illegal criminal aliens. She tells people to come to America legally, which is the first time that she's ever done this. Back in 2021, that's when all this happened, where she said, "Oh, come to New York, we're a sanctuary state." Um, so she's had a change of heart. We're going to be right back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk blooming to normal. Yes, this is a dramatic story. We are going to be getting to it here in just a few minutes, probably at the top of the hour. We'll get to it. Two county board members were absent yesterday. Discussed with you there was an 8:30 a.m. meeting where they were going to swear in the new board members, the McLean County board members, and they were going to nominate a new chair and vote on the chair. Lizzie Johnston, she is now the chair. Yes. And, I don't think that she should be chair. And here's why I'm saying this is because, I don't know, there's an investigation. There should be investigations into this behavior, these political activities that happened under the roof there in Bloomington at the government center, where they were allegedly illegally soliciting donations from government employees, from county officials. And you're not supposed to do that. So it's against state law. It's also against the McLean County government ethics code. Yeah, I don't think that she should be the chair, being that she is kind of at the forefront of these allegations. As long as Lizzie Johnson is the subject of a possible investigation for illegally shaking down county employees to raise money to get rid of their elected auditor, she should not be the board chair. I'm going to just say that right now. She should not be the board chair. It was a bold move for, I think it was Leah Klein, who had said, hey, let's nominate her. I mean, that was a bold move, but they can do it because they have the majority now. The McLean County Board have the majority Democrats. And it's nothing different. And I like how BLN News puts it. Diane Benjamin, she says, the Democrats kept in Michael Madigan for decades, knowing he was corrupt. Okay, so we've got Lizzie Johnson here. I mean, she's entering into this position of board chair. And we all know in the back of our heads that she's could be possibly investigated for illegally shaking down county employees to raise money to get rid of the elected position of auditor. I told you, back when that was going on, it was all about, getting rid of government transparency. I mean, think about it. County auditor, you had the League of Women Voters coming out and saying, no, the county auditor, it's going to save money. Well, I shut that down real quick because there's actually two people in county government who are paid more than Michelle Anderson, our current auditor, and they both hold the same exact title, environmental health supervisor or program supervisor. They're both paid more than our current auditor, and they have duplicative titles. I mean, they both have the same exact title. So if we want to cut, let's cut maybe one of those positions, being that they have the same exact job title and they're getting paid way more. She's the 73rd lowest employee. She's an elected official, lowest paid official. So she's not paid a whole lot to do the job of county auditor. And like I said, it's not just Michelle Anderson. It's not just McLean County. Champaign County, there was a coordinated effort to oust their auditor. In Peoria, a couple of years ago, there was a coordinated effort to oust their auditor, and it was a successful effort, by the way. And just across the state, people have been trying to get rid of the county auditor position in these counties because they don't like government transparency. They don't like government accountability, and they want to be able to spend your money willy-nilly, unfettered, like a dictator, and they don't want to be told to stop. Okay, so that's what the county auditor is supposed to do. They're supposed to be the checks and balances, and they don't like that. They want to be able to spend your money without being questioned. So there was a meeting held. We're going to get to that meeting. Of course, Elizabeth Johnson, I called it. I said she's going to be the chair. She was unanimously approved, by the way. So that means some Republicans had to vote yes. And, this is the problem. Everybody's like, oh, the Republican Party sucks in McLean County. And I mean, there's always room for improvement, right? The Republican Party, there's always room for improvement. But here's the thing. It didn't matter, okay, that we got the Republican majority this last election on the McLean County board. And here's why. Consistently, a lot of those Republicans on the board vote with the Democrats, and they vote largely with the Democrats every single time. So there's no point. It's a uniparty. I mean, that's what's going on here. So, it doesn't really matter if it was just kind of like we officially lost the majority or lost the split on the McLean County board, but they had the majority anyway because they got the Republicans to vote with them anyway on all kinds of issues. So, I mean, yes, they have a Democrat majority, but they had it anyway prior to this election. And, take note of the people who voted for Lizzie Johnson. Anybody who voted yes, and that was all of them that were attended the meeting, right, unanimously. Take note because Lizzie is under possible investigation for, I don't know, pressuring people to shaking down county employees to raise money to get rid of an elected official. An elected auditor. Okay, she shouldn't be the board chair, and anybody who voted for her, you need to vote them out the next election cycle, because those people are psycho if they want to actually put somebody in, knowing that she could be under a possible investigation for corruption. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It's corruption. All right, I do want to get to this. Kathy Hochul, she's now coming out and saying that she's going to deport all the illegals, which is really funny because back in December of 2021, she was out there saying, I want to protect the illegal immigrants. I want to, I'm going to work to keep the migrants safe. I'm going to open my arms and welcome them with open arms. This is what she said in December of 2021. And she said that she's going to house them and protect them. Subsequently, New York City suffered an alien invasion. Weird. You say, hey, come to New York. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to house you for free. And we're going to welcome you in open arms. And then you have an alien invasion. And it's so large, you can't even possibly wrap your head around how large this alien invasion has been in this sanctuary state. It's much like Illinois. You say, come here. We're going to welcome you with open arms. And then they actually come. Somebody with a fraction of a brain could have predicted that offering free housing and a sanctuary status and sanctuary protection to people who break federal law, federal immigration laws, if you offer that to them, of course they're going to come. It's predictable. Anybody with fraction of a brain could have understood that, hey, if I open my arms up to illegal immigrants and give them sanctuary status and free housing, they're going to come to my state. So her rhetoric, her policies have been anti-American and pro-illegal immigrant, but now she's pretending like she was on the right side all along. She's saying that, she's going to be the first person to call ICE if migrants break the law. And she said, I will personally call ICE to deport the illegal criminal aliens. And then she tells people to come to America legally. So that's a big part of this. She says, hey, you need to come to the country legally. And up until this point, you've got her saying, I'm going to protect illegal immigrants. I'm going to protect them. This is a sanctuary state. So this is a real big change of heart. Let's take a listen.
Okay, last one, Rebecca.
Governor, First Blakeman in Nassau County has said Nassau County is not a sanctuary county. We're going to cooperate with ICE. Do you have any plans on, ways that the state might approach the president's plans for mass deportation? Is New York as a whole, under your leadership, a sanctuary state? And I believe that there's a coalition of governors akin to your climate leadership governor coalition focused on protecting immigrants. Is that something that you consider joining?
Well, I would say this. Our immigration system is woefully broken. It's been broken for decades. There was an opportunity to make meaningful change that the Republicans in the House of Representatives killed, and they should be held accountable for that. But we need to fix the border, fix the system. But I'll tell you this, those who come here legally, we want to get them jobs. I have 460,000 open jobs in the state of New York. I want them to get the proper work permits. I want them to keep their temporary protective status, if that's what they have. I want to make sure that they're part of contributing to society while they're here. That's separate from people who are criminals. Someone breaks the law, I'll be the first one to call up ICE and say, get them out of here. So there is a difference in categories of individuals. And so I just had a meeting this morning with my team that's been studying all the scenarios that could play out over the next few months and what we need to do to prepare. We'll be announcing more about that, and also making sure that our final requests to the Biden administration are secure. And so that's something else. Again, I'll do a report on what we've achieved in the next couple of weeks.
So just to be clear, are you supportive or not supportive of deporting undocumented immigrants whose only crime is either crossing the border or overstaying?
If they're here with legal papers, like they came and they're seeking asylum, like the 224,000 people came to New York, they're here legally in search of asylum, and that process will play out. But there are other people who commit crimes or are known to be criminals before they arrived here. When those are identified, I'll be the first one to help get rid of them. I don't want them here. I don't want anybody terrorizing my citizens. So that's the difference.
Wow. Remarkable, honestly. I don't know what her change of heart and where that came from, but if what she's saying true, why is she not doing it? Really? I mean, why is she not doing it? Do it today. Carry out mass deportations. Like she said, there are people there seeking asylum and they have papers. So she was very clear about who she's talking about, the people with papers. And the reporter there, oh, their only crime is crossing the border. And, yeah, that's a crime. They have to have the papers. They have to be seeking asylum. They have to have gone through a legal port of entry. And, I don't know why she's pretending that she will deport migrants. She could do it now. She's like, oh, I'm going to deport migrants who are breaking the law. Do it now. Do it now. There's no question that there's been a massive increase of crime, both in Illinois and in New York. I mean, these are two very similar states in the sense that they're both sanctuary states and they've allowed for this alien invasion. But there's been a massive increase of crime in New York, and that's due to importing alien invaders on taxpayer dime, importing them, giving them free housing, allowing them to take up shelter on the taxpayer dime when they're not here legally and they don't have asylum papers or the documentation. So I don't really believe her. I don't believe her when she says that she will call up ICE personally and deport them because she could do it now. So I don't know what she's trying to pull with this whole grandstanding saying she would deport them. Maybe she's just trying to avoid, the feds coming in and doing it for her. And she just will never do it. She's like, don't worry, feds, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And she says that with her mouth, but then she doesn't do it. Maybe that's what's going on here. I'll be right back. I got to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Now, before we took the break, I was telling you about Kathy Hochul. She says, quote, if someone breaks the law, I'll be the first one to call up ICE and say, get them out of here. Uh-huh. Sure, Kathy Hochul, whatever you say. If what she's saying is true, then why is she not doing it? Why is she not doing what she claims she'll do? Do it now. Nobody's stopping you. She's pretending she's going to deport these illegal immigrants for breaking the law, while the same immigrants continue to break the law over and over again. Okay, they continue to break the law over and over again in New York City, on the buses, in the streets. We all know that there's been a massive increase of crime, not only in Chicago but in New York. Due to this importing of illegal aliens, and they're being imported on the taxpayer dime. They're being housed on the taxpayer dime up in the hotels, right? The credit cards. And I don't think people are actually going to believe her. Do you believe her when she says that she's going to deport? She's going to be the first person to call up ICE and deport illegal aliens. I don't think so. I think that she's kind of grandstanding here. She's probably trying to avoid the feds coming in and telling her what to do. And if she comes out first and says, oh, don't worry, I'll deport the migrants. You don't have to, federal government. I'll do it. Trump administration, please don't come into my state. For the most part, New York has handed over everything for free over to the migrants solely just because they disrespected our federal immigration laws. And the city and the state have enabled these people to the fullest extent possible. They give them free housing. In fact, who is it? The guy, Jose Ibarra, I think is his name. I can't remember his name. He killed Laken Riley. He was given a taxpayer flight, free flight to Georgia, to where he killed and ultimately killed Laken Riley. So we have enabled these people to the fullest extent possible. New York has, and Kathy Hochul has. So also, I don't know. We've gotten to a point where these alien invaders have developed like a sense of entitlement. And I see it all of the time here in Illinois, specifically at the Capitol. What you'll see if you go there just one day, you'll see people who every single day, it's like nonprofit organizations, and on behalf of the illegal immigrants, they'll get out there and they'll try to lobby the government for more rights, or what they call rights. And you'll have hundreds of illegal immigrants. And this actually happened in New York, screaming in the streets to be treated like American citizens, although they have no documentation. So they were chanting this in the streets of New York, hundreds of illegal aliens, and they've got this sense of entitlement, this first world entitlement. Before they even get here, they think that they are entitled to, jobs. So they were shouting this, hundreds of illegal immigrants shouting this exact phrase in the streets of New York: accept our labor, respect our rights. Accept our labor, respect our rights. And this happened because the government in New York allowed it to happen. They allowed them to come here. They enabled them with the housing. They enabled them with taxpayer-paid flights to Georgia, wherever they wanted to go. They would give them the flight, they give them the airline ticket, and they've enabled them. And now they've got this sense of entitlement to where they think they're entitled to American jobs and to the American way, everything that Americans have in this country. They think that they're entitled to it, even though they're not citizens of this country or have no paperwork, no documentation. They didn't even go through the legal port of entry. The only entitlement, the only thing that they've done is break federal immigration law, and they think that they're entitled to a job here, and they think that they're entitled to more than minimum wage, and they fight for things like more than minimum wage once they get here. And it's just wild to me for Hochul to pretend that she intends to deport some of these people is pathetic. I think it's comical. I don't think she's going to do it at all. I think that she has no intention to do it. All right, I do want to talk with you about Kash Patel. Trump has chosen him to head up the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Today's show is going to break down why he chose Kash Patel. Kash Patel, according to the left, is a worst person for the job. He's a Trump loyalist, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. The more the left screams about one of these picks, the more reason I think that he's probably the best qualified person for that position, right? That's usually a good indicator that he's very, very qualified for this position. And I think he's the best person for the job for the same reasons. The left is out there saying, oh, he's the worst person. I think that the left saying that means that he's the best person. So I'm going to be right back talking a little bit about Kash Patel here next on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal, according to Trump. Kash Patel, he's a brilliant lawyer, investigator, and an America First fighter who spent his career exposing corruption, defending justice, and protecting the American people. And then he goes on, he says, he played a pivotal role in uncovering the Russia hoax, standing as an advocate for truth, accountability, and the Constitution. Now, something you need to know about Kash Patel, who is set to head up the new FBI under the Trump administration, he was also targeted in the Mar-a-Lago case. He was offered immunity if he had testified against Donald Trump. Guess what Kash Patel did? He said no. He refused. And people are saying, oh, he's a Trump loyalist. He's a Trump loyalist. Good. I mean, why in the hell would Trump put in somebody that he doesn't trust in that position or is not loyal? So this really tells you a whole lot, the Kash Patel pick. And here's why. We distrust these institutions, especially after COVID. I think that's where there was this major shift where the American people decided to, or really just to no fault of their own, they didn't even decide to do it. They have a distrust in the intelligence agencies. They have a distrust in our bureaucracies and our institutions. And these picks are representative of you. Pete Hegseth, an anti-establishment pick. You've got RFK Jr., anti-establishment pick. Tulsi Gabbard, anti-establishment. She wants to get rid of the Patriot Act. So these picks are representative of you, and the media can't comprehend why Americans distrust the FBI and why people might want to change it. So we're going to talk about it here coming up in just a little bit. Why Americans distrust the FBI and why people might want to fundamentally change it. I mean, come on. They've one example is that the FBI has refused to go after people like Hillary Clinton. Okay, and they went after Trump for reasons no government agency ever has before gone after somebody, and they've weaponized the justice system against Donald Trump, and they've prosecuted you, the American people, for things like a tax mistake, and they've overturned your entire life for something as simple as, a tax mistake. But guess what? Hunter Biden gets to do that stuff all of the time, and he doesn't get thrown in jail over, not paying his taxes. But if you were to do it, you'd be jailed. You'd be, up a creek without a paddle, right? I mean, that is why people distrust the FBI. This is just one specific example, not to mention the FBI went to, we now know, the big tech, Facebook, Twitter, and asked them to censor Americans who were favorable of Donald Trump, and who, shared out this story about Hunter Biden and his laptop. They censored that story. So naturally, there is a distrust. And the media can't comprehend why the American people distrust the FBI and why we might want to change it fundamentally and why we might want to go in there and gut the FBI and get people out of there. These people are really just thugs, the FBI, the federal agents, and January 6th that day, complete thugs. They provoked people to go into the Capitol, and they were charged with trespassing and a lot of times jailed for trespassing for years, and jailed without clothes, jailed without a bed to sleep in. And they're thugs. They are enforcement arms of the federal government, and they were doing Nancy Pelosi's bidding there on January 6th. So especially January 6th, I think there was also a distrust, being that the feds, people in these khakis, right? You've seen the footage. Oh, this guy's a Fed, Ray Epps, right? They provoked people to go into the Capitol, and subsequently they were shot at in the case of Ashley Babbitt, or they were gassed or beaten by Capitol Police. So what these people are, they're thugs, and people want to see it dismantled. People want to shrink the government, and for the first time, you actually have a president who's talking about shrinking the government. Not in local government, not in state government. Nobody really ever talks about shrinking the government. Okay, zero-based budget. No, that's like a thing of the past, I guess. Once you raise the budget, they keep raising the budget every single year, and they don't go back to this zero-based budget. And for the first time of our lives, I think in my life, I mean, you're having the federal government talk about people entering these institutions who have a mistrust of the government, like Kash Patel, like RFK Jr., and they've got this mindset going in, hey, what can we cut or what can we get rid of when it comes to this institution? And that's never happened before under a Republican or a Democrat. You've never had somebody go in there and say, hey, let's shrink the government. And there's a reason for that. It's because Donald Trump came from the private sector. He didn't go up, and he didn't start out as a senator. He didn't start out as a state legislator. He didn't work his way up to Congress. Wasn't even a mayor, right? He was not even a politician, and he got into the presidency, and he's been in the private sector his whole life, and he understands what that's like. And that's why you have, for the first time ever, people entering these institutions with that mindset of, hey, what do we cut? And what do we do on behalf of the American people who aren't in government, and people who are not in the public sector? How do we help them out? So in 2016, I do want to talk about this James Comey. He said, quote, although there's evidence of potential violations of statute regarding the handling of the classified information, Hillary Clinton, smashing the cell phone with the hammer, our judgment is that there is no reasonable prosecutor, or that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. Yeah, probably because she'd off him. Just kidding. Just kidding. Allegedly, the Clintons off people who go up against them, right? Allegedly. So you've got Hillary Clinton destroying evidence or destroying classified information, and there was evidence that she had done this. But you've got James Comey in 2016 saying, nobody would dare bring a case against her. So I hope that they go in there with an axe. I hope that they go in there with a chainsaw and they just start cutting away at this government bloat. So I'm really, really excited to see what Kash Patel does in that as the new head of the FBI. We're going to talk about the blanket pardon a little bit just because that's in the news. I'll tell you why it's in the news. Actually, I think Joe Biden did this on purpose. He waited until it was a slow news week after the week of Thanksgiving. It's always a slow news week. I think he waited specifically to do this pardon here to make it harder for the Democrats. I think he's still salty about them ousting him, which, as you should be. I think he is always planning to pardon Hunter, but it's kind of interesting the timing here of his pardon. So we're going to chat a little bit about that as well. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat. Woohoo! Welcome to the Red Kingdom. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. These picks are representative of you. RFK Jr. is representative of the people who are just sick of Red 40, that the food dyes and the chemicals being in your food, the moms and dads who had to send their kids to school with a mask on, and the mask didn't make sense, and there was no science behind that rule, the mask mandates. There was no science, but I talked about this NIH employee who, on undercover footage, it disclosed unknowingly to this journalist, O'Keefe Media Group journalist, He's an NIH employee, and he said, "Yeah, that 6 foot rule. Don't know where that really came from. It was like arbitrary. It was just some silly rule that we kind of put in place, and there was no science that actually backed it up." You have somebody from the NIH now admitting that about COVID-19. So RFK Jr. is representative of you, Kash Patel is representative of you, Pete Hegseth is representative of you. So the media can't begin to comprehend why Americans distrust the FBI or any other institution. They just can't wrap their head around it. It's because they're not living in the real world. They're living in this fake world of media, Hollywood, celebrities, politics, public sector, and they're not actually living in the private sector. And the reason why I think that this is so interesting is because Donald Trump, traditionally, people go, they be a lobbyist or they work on legislator staff or they are a state legislator, then they work their way up to Congress. Maybe they'll start out as a school board member or mayor. That's traditionally how people kind of work in politics. You start somewhere and then you work your way up. Donald Trump didn't do any of that. He started out in the private sector and then he ran for president. So he understands what it's like in the private sector. And people in the private sector constantly have this kind of stuff shoved in their faces. And I want to give you a specific example. Remember when the prosecutors refused to go after Hillary Clinton? And they went after Donald Trump for reasons no government agency ever has before. They, got him on got you on like a filing error. We got you on a document error. Or, you're like, wait a second. Hillary Clinton did far worse and everybody refused to prosecute Hillary Clinton. But yeah, you're going after Donald Trump for all of these BS reasons. And then if you were to step out of line and accidentally mess up your taxes, or you make a mistake on your taxes, or if you trespass, right, like the J6ers, you're going to be jailed without food, water in the cases of the J6ers, or sometimes without clothes, bedding. And the J6 thing really proved to me that the federal, like the FBI, some FBI agents, now I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying some within the Federal Bureau of Investigations, they were there on that day. We know that, Ray Epps. And they forced people into this Capitol. And they said, hey, go in. And they were provoking people into going inside. And then they said, oh, got you on trespassing. Now we're going to cuff you. We're going to cuff your legs together. We're going to cuff your arms together. This actually happened to a buddy of mine, Brandon Strzok, right? He was on this program talking about how they cuffed his legs together. They cuffed his arms together. And they mistreated people for trespassing, right? But they wouldn't have even done it had not the FBI agents there that day baited them into going in. Then you had people getting baited and going in. And then you had the Capitol Police pretty much forcing people inside that Capitol because they were using rubber ammunition. They were shooting into the crowd, gas, and people had no place to go because they were coming in from behind this crowd other than the Capitol, okay? And then you had Capitol Police ushering them in. So these people are thugs. They're thug enforcement arms of the federal government. And I think for the first time ever, and it's because Donald Trump comes from the private sector. That's what I truly believe, is that he didn't go up and do the normal, I'm going to be a senator, I'm going to be a congressman, then I'm going to run for office, or I'm going to be a governor, and then I'm going to run for office or run for the presidency. No, he came straight from the private sector. And this is the first time where I think people are actually talking about shrinking the government. You have these people who are entering into these, department heads, RFK Jr., you've got Pete Hegseth, you've got Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and this has never happened before, Republican or Democrat, where they're coming in with this mistrust of the government. They're coming in with this mindset of what do we cut? And that is the mindset of every single American who lives in the real world, which is the private sector, and not this clown world, the public sector, where you kind of just, cozy your way up to, higher and higher positions of power within the government, whether it's your state government and you work up your state government to your federal government. So in 2016, and I want to share this with you, James Comey said this, don't forget this. bookmark this, archive this show, Conservative Cat, on December 3rd, 2024. Archive this. In 2016, James Comey said this, quote, although there is evidence of potential violations of statutes regarding the handling of classified information, this is Hillary Clinton taking a hammer to a cell phone, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case against Hillary. No reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. They refused to prosecute Hillary Clinton. Meanwhile, you're prosecuted for little things like tax mistakes, and Hunter Biden gets away with it, which we're going to get to here in just a second. But I can't wait. I cannot wait for there to be a chainsaw taken to this government bureaucracy, and we just need to eliminate the bloat. We need to shrink it. Budgets shouldn't balloon. We should do zero-based budget. And we should get back to, or really, this has never really been done before, like I said, but we need to shrink this government. And I'm excited because you've got people coming in like Kash Patel who have this mindset of, what do we cut? What do we cut? And I have a mistrust of this institution, which is so exciting. And these picks are representative of you. That's why Donald Trump is making these picks the way he is. I do want to get to Joe Biden. He pardons his crackhead son, Hunter Biden. And, you know, the media is already out there. They're like, oh, he's such a family man. He's such a family, which I knew they were going to come out and start saying this. Oh, of course he's going to pardon his son. Wouldn't you? And it's glorious that Joe Biden kind of did this. I want to look at the timing of this pardon because he kind of did this, like, I think as a big screw you to the Democrats and the media. Because this is a really interesting week. The week after Thanksgiving weekend is typically really slow news. You know, that's just the way it goes with holiday season. Any news between now and November is kind of slow. And if there is a headline, it's deliberately released during this time period because people want more eyes on it. So I was thinking Joe Biden would pardon his son, but I was thinking it would happen maybe closer to Inauguration Day. I think he did this as a big screw you to the Democrats and the media because of the way they treated him after that first debate with Donald Trump. He's still salty about it. So I think he did this pardon right during this week here where, like, this is all we're going to be talking about this week. The media is like, everybody is going to be talking about this pardon because there's nothing else really to talk about. So Joe Biden, he pardoned his crackhead son. And I think this is his way of saying screw you to the Democrats. We're going to get to that. And plus, I do want to play a little bit from Scott Jennings. He blasts Joe Biden, how it's disgraceful that he pardoned his son. And it is not, remember, this is not, oh, a father pardoning his son. His son struggled with addiction and he was unfairly prosecuted, right? You guys were really mean to Hunter and it's just unfair, right? And people are painting him as like the hero dad. Joe Biden is not a family man. He refuses to acknowledge his granddaughter. This is not a guy. This is not a nice guy. He didn't do it for his family. Really, what I think this is Joe Biden. And when I say Joe Biden, I mean Jill, did this at this time to screw over the Democrats and the media because they're forced to talk about the pardon. And it's going to get way more media attention in this week. With Inauguration Week, there's way more news. So I think this timing was very deliberate with his pardon. So let's get to it. On Sunday night, right before Monday, you know, they could have done it even like maybe on Friday, right? Then it probably wouldn't have gotten the media attention it did on Monday morning. But on Sunday night, Joe Biden, right before Monday morning opened, and people are scouring for news, right? And they're hungry for the news because it's a slow news week. Joe Biden announced his blanket pardon for his son Hunter, covering any crimes he may or may not have committed over the span of a decade. Okay, so in comparison, this is really important. Gerald Ford's pardon of Nixon only covered 5 years. We're looking at a decade Joe covered for his son. And y'all were too mean to Hunter, okay? And I read the statement yesterday. He was talking about, you know, he's 5.5. This was an effort to break Hunter, who's been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective persecution or prosecution. In trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it'll stop here. And this is why I'm pardoning, right? My son, Hunter, is because you guys have been really unfair to him and you're trying to break him and you're trying to take advantage of the fact that he's 5 years sober, and I just love this tweet. Remember when Joe Biden came out and he was like, no one's above the law? And they were, of course, referring to Donald Trump. This is a community note, and Elon Musk tweeted this out, a community note that is plastered on this tweet of Joe Biden's from, oh gosh, what is it? I think it was like from May of 2024, where Joe Biden says, no one is above the law. He says this in a tweet. And then the community note here is this, quote, by pardoning his son Hunter, not only for a single crime, but for all actual or potential crimes he may or may not have committed, over an 11-year period, may have created over an 11-year period, Joe Biden has made it clear that some people are in fact above the law. That's the community note here on Twitter, and I thought that was hilarious. This is a great meme. So Elon Musk posted that community note. Yeah, obviously some people are above the law. It's your son, Joe Biden, or Hunter Biden. So I know people are going to be like, oh, this is an outrage, the elitists. And I'm going to get to that because it is true that the elitists are above the law. And really Democrats are above the law if you really want to get down to it. We're dealing with the same thing here in McLean County where Lissy Johnson and Cassie Taylor, and they get to get away with this, right? And nobody's probably going to hold them accountable. We'll have to see if there's going to be an independent investigation done. There could be a possible investigation into this. We're going to look into, or we're going to talk about it here later in the show. But she got to be chair. Like, she was literally voted in as chair, McLean County chair, when there's a possible investigation looking into her conduct here. And as it relates to like this illegal activity of soliciting donations from county employees on behalf of this political PAC that was established in support of a referendum to eliminate the county auditor. And what does she get in return? She gets the chairmanship. So I could go in this rant about elitists. I talked about it a lot yesterday, and I will play the clip from Scott Jennings, how he talks about the justice system and how it's only for the elitists to get ahead, and it's to go after people like you and me. But I'm gonna look at this, and I talked a little bit about this. People who control Joe Biden, they were defeated in the election, and there has always been a plan to pardon Hunter. Okay, and they had because Joe Biden reportedly was kind of mulling over this pardon since June. Okay, so if you remember back in June, that was right after the first debate, right when they probably decided that they were going to install undemocratically Kamala Harris into that position. She didn't run in a primary, and she was going to be selected as the nominee. So right after all of that debacle with the debate, the first debate, and Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and it was just terrible, they knew that they had to start planning like a possible pardon. Had they not won the election. Now, they were defeated in the election, so they obviously were going to pardon Hunter Biden. We knew it was coming. Trump and his team are coming in, so they've got to pardon Joe Biden while they've got it at their disposal. So I know that you know that that Hunter Biden was always going to be pardoned. Hunter Biden was going to get a pardon from his dad in the White House, Joe Biden. We always knew that was probably going to be the case. They lost the election, so they said, yep, we actually have to issue this pardon because we've lost the election and Donald Trump and his team are coming in. We've run out of time. So we just assumed that he'd do it on his way out the door, though, like much later in January, I'd say. Like January 20th, around inauguration, like most presidents, they issue their pardons right before inauguration. And they do that kind of purposefully because there's a lot of news leading up to the inauguration. And they kind of usually, the whole pardon thing, you might want to like keep that on the DL, depending if they're controversial or not. This one, obviously, very controversial, but the timing of this is really interesting. Coming back from Thanksgiving break, there's nothing anybody else is talking about right now. And this was an amazing time to do it if Joe Biden's intention was to get back at the Democrats and the media for screwing him out of the nominee position, and he's upset about this de facto coup. So these hacks, these journalism hacks, who praised Joe for pledging not to pardon Hunter, are going to start to look stupid because they have to come up with some sort of like excuses to why this is a good thing that Joe Biden, and their whole thing is like, oh, what a great dad, right? I've seen this in the media where there's like, they're looking really stupid right now, and I'm not going to let them look stupid because that's absolutely dumb to say that Joe Biden's a family man. What a great dad. What? No, Joe Biden is not a family man. He ignores the existence of a granddaughter simply because she wasn't born in wedlock, I'm pretty sure. It's Hunter Biden's daughter, Nora or Nova, I think it is. I don't remember the granddaughter's name, but the Democrat Party forced Joe out of the race. And I really do think that this was Joe Biden's way of screwing over the Democrats. They wanted to dominate the news cycle with this pardon instead of, the media. They'd prefer to talk about how crappy Kash Patel is, or how bad RFK Jr. is, or how bad Pete Hegseth is. Instead, they're forced to figure out a way to not look stupid because they praised Joe Biden for pledging not to pardon Hunter back then, right? They were like, oh, Joe Biden's not pardoning Hunter. That's so great. And they all assumed that Kamala Harris would get in, and it doesn't matter. But Kamala Harris didn't get in. She didn't win the election. Now they've got egg on their face, and they're like, man, we have to figure out how not to look stupid. How do we spin this story? And honestly, I think Jill wrote and signed the pardon for Joe. And they did this deliberately as a big screw you to the Democrats and the media for ousting Joe Biden. So I'm going to be right back. I got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back and we're going to chat a little bit more about the pardon. And then we will also get to Lizzie Johnson becoming chair of the McLean County Board. We'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat. Okay, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We've got so much to get to. Now they can't say anything when Donald Trump comes in and pardons the January Sixers, the J6ers, which is long overdue. Joe Biden should have pardoned the J6ers after that footage came out and was released by Tucker Carlson. You remember that? They have been mistreated. They're prisoners, really, of a weaponized justice system and weaponized. They're prisoners of these thugs, these federal thugs, FBI agents who forced them into the Capitol or enticed them to go into the Capitol, and then they slapped them with trespassing charges. They committed the crime of trespassing at the Capitol, and they're like going without food and water and bedding. So when Donald Trump pardons these people, these J6 prisoners, I hope that I'm sure that they'll have plenty to say about it, but you can't say anything about it because Joe Biden, this is so abnormal, really, the type of pardon that he gave to Hunter Biden. It's a blanket pardon for Hunter. Nobody's going to listen to the media once they have this outrage about the J6ers being pardoned by Donald Trump because of the Hunter Biden pardon. I mean, and you can't say anything. I mean, it'd just be hypocritical. So we're going to get to all of that here next on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. The news and talk of Bloomington Normal. The J6ers, who during mostly peaceful protest, committed the crime of trespassing. Oh no! The crime of trespassing. And really, they probably wouldn't have even trespassed in the Capitol had it not been for the Capitol Police. Oh, I don't know, shooting rubber bullets at them and gassing them and forcing them inside of the Capitol. And then you had FBI agents scattered everywhere, Ray Epps, telling people to go inside of the Capitol. They probably wouldn't have even trespassed had it not been for the thugs in the federal government. However, they can't say anything, the media, that is, when Trump pardons these people. Because now we've got this really abnormal blanket pardon that Joe Biden gave Hunter. And there's so much media coverage on this, and I think it was kind of deliberate to be that way, because on his way out, he wanted to screw the Democrats and the media over because of the way they ousted Joe Biden from being the Democrat nominee. Joe Biden did what Joe was always going to do. I think it's the timing that's interesting. Okay, we knew that Joe Biden was going to pardon Hunter had they not won the election. They were waiting to see if they were going to win the election with Kamala Harris, and then they wouldn't have to, issue the pardon or anything like that, because they'd have control of the justice system and, the sentencing. But they're not going to have all of that, and they had to issue the pardon because Trump and his team, they're coming on in, and they did not want Hunter Biden to be subject to, the FBI Kash Patel director, right? The FBI director Kash Patel, or Trump's administration. So after years of the left claiming that Trump was all in it for himself and his family, and I don't know, Joe Biden has made the strongest possible case for Donald Trump that anybody could make. Scott Jennings, I want to get to this. He says this Trump will, after years of saying Trump will only use the system for himself, he's going to use the system for himself and his family. After years of the left saying that, now we've got Joe Biden actually doing it. Okay, Trump is yet to prove anything, say or do anything that is evidence of that, where he is using the justice system for himself and his family. So here we go. Let's take a listen to Scott Jennings on CNN.
Joe Biden is leaving office making the strongest possible case for Donald Trump that anybody could possibly make it. And that's that our government and our justice system is of, by, and for the elites and nobody else. He ran to banish Trumpism from our political system in this country, and he has left it politically and now institutionally the strongest possible political force in this country. It is a complete and utter failure by the head of the Democratic Party and the President of the United States. Never again do I want to hear, oh, Donald Trump's a liar. You can't believe anything he says. Donald Trump will abuse his power. Donald Trump will only use the system to benefit himself and his family and so on and so forth. Never again. I have one question for Karen, and that is, why did he need an 11-year blanket pardon going back to 2014 when Joe Biden was the vice president? We are sitting on the biggest cover-up of who knows what crimes, and Joe Biden amazingly knows exactly, roughly, when it started. He knows just about when it all started. He's leaving office in complete and total disgrace. He is a liar, and there is no other way to spin this today. This has nothing to do with Trump and everything to do with the character of Joe Biden.
Wow. So that was Scott Jennings on CNN, and he blasted really these Democrats. He ripped the Democrats for defending Hunter Biden's pardon, claiming that Donald Trump will only use the system to benefit himself and his family for the next 8 years, or for the next 4 years, and that he was going to do it for the past 8 years, right? And that Trump was the guy that was going to weaponize the justice system against Hunter Biden. And that's how they're kind of like saying, oh, Hunter Biden, the pardon here, we're defending it because Donald Trump was going to get in and weaponize the government against his enemies and his political opponents, which is just ridiculous, because up to this point, the opposite is true, where they weaponize the government against Donald Trump. And Biden issued this formal pardon, like I said, to his son on Sunday evening. And after the White House assured the American public for months, that he would not do so. So Jennings argued that this action made the strongest possible case for Donald Trump by proving that the president blatantly lied to the American people only to ultimately protect his son in the end. So he actually used the justice system for protection for his family. So Joe Biden, quote, is leaving office, making the strongest possible case for Donald Trump that anybody could possibly make. And that's our government, our justice system is of by and for the elites and nobody else. So that's what Jennings says. He goes, that's proof. This is proof that our justice system and our current government, they are by and for the elites and for nobody else. And Jennings goes on, he ran to banish Trumpism from our political system in the country, and he left it politically and now institutionally the strongest possible political force in this country. It is a complete and utter failure by the head of the Democrat Party and the President of the United States. Never again do I want to hear, oh, Donald Trump is a liar. You can't believe anything he says. Donald Trump will abuse his power. Donald Trump will use the system to his benefit and his family's benefit, and so on and so forth. We're sitting on the biggest cover up of who knows what crime, because this is a blanket crime stretching back decades, 2014. So what happened in 2014? He knows exactly what crimes he's covering up, Joe Biden, because he's got the dates. Why stretch it back to 2014? The left is not consistent with its outrage, okay? If anything, they should be outraged that Joe Biden lied to the American people. He said that he wasn't going to pardon his son, but he did. We all knew that he was going to, but it's interesting, the timing. Like I said, I think it's a big screw you to the Democrats and the media by Joe Biden because he wants it in the press. He wants to screw over the Democrat Party. So, yeah, Trump would not have done what crooked Joe Biden did. I'll tell you that. I don't think that, not for a second. Could you imagine the media outrage, though, if Trump had done something like this? And I don't think he ever will. I think that he might pardon himself. Donald Trump. We'll have to see. But yeah, I love what Scott Jennings here said about, the justice system is by and for the elites. I'm going to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. I'm on YouTube and on Rumble. Subscribe to the channel today. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Sleepy Joe pardoning his son, his drug addict son. And yeah, this is just reprehensible, really. It's just reprehensible. The left is not consistent with their outrage. I feel like if Donald Trump were to do the same thing, say for Don Trump Jr., as crooked Joe Biden did, an 11-year pardon, stretching decades, right? I mean, come on, this is a cover up. This is the biggest cover up, and who knows what crimes Joe Biden knows about and is covering up. So if Donald Trump were to have done the same thing, the media would be outraged. I couldn't even imagine the types of conversations that would be happening on The View or on CNN, on the CNN panel, had Donald Trump done this. But Joe Biden did it. Crooked Joe did. So this is what Scott Jennings says. He knows just about when it all started. He's leaving office in complete and total disgrace. He's a liar, and there's no other way to spin this today. This has nothing to do with Trump and everything to do with the character of Joe Biden. Joe Biden didn't do this because he's a family man. He won't even acknowledge his granddaughter, for Pete's sake. So come on. I mean, most people predicted Sleepy Joe would pardon his drug-addicted son. We all know this. It's interesting, the timing, and we talked about that here in the program, that I think the timing is interesting. He didn't wait until closer to January when this kind of would have been maybe like second or third page news. It's right after Thanksgiving break, slow news week. Now the Democrats and the media, I repeat myself, are going to have to be talking about this pardon. They're forced to talk about the pardon. And this is a really abnormal pardon in the sense that it stretches over a long, long period of time. So as Jennings said, the justice system is for the elites and nobody else, and it could not be more obvious. This is why the same people defending this are outraged over Trump naming Kash Patel as the new FBI director. It's because those elitists don't want to be held accountable. They want the system that emboldens them. These people want someone who will embolden the system and not go after it in favor of the American people. And I told you that Kash Patel is just a representative of you. Donald Trump is putting people in these positions that are representatives of you. And the left wants a justice system that is beholden to the elites, not the people who take oath, and not the people they take oaths to represent. Okay, you take an oath to represent us, Joe Biden, and like this justice system should not be favorable to you over us. It's just not fair. So the Dems continue to claim that Trump is all in it for himself. Joe Biden is finishing his first term all in it for himself. They say that Trump is all in it for himself, but he has yet to weaponize the government against his political opponents, which they've done to Donald Trump, which Joe Biden has done to Donald Trump, and the Democrats have done to Donald Trump. Exhibit A, the Mar-a-Lago, Fannie Willis, Jack Smith, Alvin Bragg, should I go on? All of these trumped up charges that they've lodged against him. So while the Democrats continue to say, Trump's all in it for himself, he's a fascist, he's a dictator, he's going to, weaponize the justice system and use the justice system for his favor, Joe Biden is doing this all in his first term, or all in his first term. He weaponized the government against Donald Trump and his supporters, by the way, the J6ers jailed without bedding, without food, for simply trespassing. And then you've got Joe Biden finishing his term, pardoning his family member, stretching back 11 years. And it would be an understatement to claim that that's exactly what's wrong with the current administration. This is exactly why Donald Trump was elected. It's because of behavior like this. I do also want to talk about how, it doesn't just happen at the federal level. This sort of, rules for thee, but not for me. Leah Klein, she had the audacity to nominate Elizabeth Johnston for board chair. Now, I've talked about Elizabeth Johnston extensively on this program. I had Chad Burke on. She's probably one of the worst county board members that we've got. and I've lost all respect for her, any possible respect for her, especially after what she had done to Chad Burke. Chad Burke is just like you, right? He lives in a neighborhood in Normal, and he had the justice system weaponized against him. Okay, he was defending himself in his own yard, by the way, by a habitual stabber, somebody who liked to stab people. He had a background of stabbing people. And he stabbed Chad Burke several times. I think it was like close to 19 times, something like that. And guess what? The Normal police went after him. Because, when the cops got there, the guy who had no wounds on him, right? He claimed that he was defending himself against Chad Burke, who was the guy who had all the defensive wounds, who was stabbed, right? This guy had no stab marks on him, and Chad was hauled off, and he had the justice system weaponized against him. The story ends where the judge, completely says, "I'm sorry that this happened to you. We apologize to you, and this is wrong what happened to you, and how the justice system was played out here in your case." So you have Chad Burke, who's like you, a private sector member. He had the justice system weaponized really against him. And Elizabeth Johnson had the nerve when he, had filed to try to be appointed to the seat, the County Board District 5 seat, after John McIntyre resigned due to health issues. He had, put in an application to be appointed because he lives in that district, District 5. He actually ran this last go around. Elizabeth Johnston, she had the nerve, folks, to make him relive this traumatic experience where he was stabbed multiple times in his own front yard by this person who had priors stabbing or threatening to stab people. And you've got her questioning him about it as if he's the criminal in this situation. And then the judge had already come out and said, "Hey, we're sorry that this happened to you. We got it wrong here." But she didn't bother to ask him about it personally or behind, in the private. She drug it all out into the public meeting here, and she forced him to relive that situation because it was all about politics. It was all about trying to make Chad Burke look bad for being a victim of the justice system, by the way. So Elizabeth Johnston, she is currently possibly going to be investigated for illegally shaking down county employees to raise money to get rid of the elected auditor. And being that she could be subject to this possible investigation, she probably shouldn't be chair. Right. So I'm going to take a break, but we're going to come back. We're going to discuss a little bit more about this story, how she was nominated as chair, and they voted on her, and unanimously they all selected her as chair. So that means Republicans voted for her as chair as well. So take note of that. We're going to be right back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9.
McLean County Board elected former Vice Chair Elizabeth Johnston as its new chair on Monday. Jim Rogel was appointed the Vice Chair. Board now has a Democratic majority, 12 to 8. Stay tuned. Your forecast is next on Cities 92.9. The news and talk of Bloomington Normal. News on the the air, on the web, on your app, and on Alexa. I'm Tom Davis. Here's the Bloomington Normal forecast on Cities 92.9. Mostly sunny today with a high of 30. Partly cloudy tonight, low 22. Partly sunny and breezy Wednesday, the warmest day of the week with a high of 42. Much colder Thursday, +3, high only about 23. The weather is being delivered by Fairbury Furniture. If you need a lift chair, take the many drive to Fairbury Furniture. They have over 20 lift chairs for you to test drive.
When you hear the word preferred, you think better, right? You think, top hat and cane. Well, that's not true when it comes to auto body repair. When your car is in an accident and your insurance company suggests you use one of their preferred shops, it's because of the discount the insurance company receives from the shop, not because of the quality of their work. Johnson Lexington reminds you that when your car is in an accident, remember, it's your car, and you can get it fixed at the body shop of your choice, not your insurance company's. Don't be fooled by corporate preferred lists. Tell your insurance company you choose Johns in Lexington, preferred by their customers, not insurance companies.
Everyone knows John's in Lexington fixes your car right, and they fix it on time. What a lot of people don't know about John's lifetime follow you warranty, which means your car is covered for the life of the car. Even if you sell it, it's still covered. John's in Lexington. Whatever carries your family, John's will make it safe.
William is one of millions of Americans who uses GoodRx to save on the cost of their prescriptions.
My oldest daughter, Camilla, 2 days old, she had to have her open heart surgery. All of a sudden, she's on 5 different medications. It adds up at the end of the month. The pharmacist got to tell you what she's in GoodRx, save you a lot of money. Save that extra $200 to $300 a month. We're able to do all these extra activities. Puts less stress on our household, and it puts less stress on our pockets.
Download the free app or visit GoodRx.com and start saving today. GoodRx users are compensated for their time. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity's stolen, their U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code PLAY. Visit LifeLock.com.
Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk Bloomington Normal. Yes, Republicans, at least, so 2 were gone in the vote. So that was Bloomfield and Reeves. They're both Republicans. So 8 minus 2, that's 6. So 6 Republicans. Take note, they voted for somebody who could be possibly investigated for illegally shaking down county employees to raise money to get rid of the elected auditor. She should not be chair. Now, here's what's going to happen, folks. They're going to try to get Cassie Taylor. This is a big screw up, and they're going to try to get Cassie Taylor. I don't know if she listens to the program, but I really hope that people encourage her to not go down for this. Okay, it wasn't just her, it was Lizzie Johnson. Okay, Lizzie Johnston said reportedly, I guess, to WDLT, confirmed that she supports an investigation into the alleged violations of county rules by the administrator, Cassie Taylor. This is so much bigger than what they're making it. And shame on, this article where they're like, oh, the alleged violations of county rules. It's bigger than that. It's against state law. Okay, it's against state law. And I don't think Cassie Taylor should fall on her sword because according to the statement or this email by Trevor Sierra, if you guys haven't been following the story, he discloses that it's not just Cassie Taylor, it was Elizabeth Johnson who's going around soliciting donations for this PAC that was established in support of this referendum. And the referendum was to eliminate the county auditor position, okay? And he apologized for contributing to the PAC and giving money to, Cassie Taylor. But in the email, he names Elizabeth Johnson. She was a part of this. And I feel like they're going to have Cassie fall on her sword or fall on she's going to be the fall guy for this. And that sucks. That really sucks because it's not just her. It was probably multiple people who facilitated this kind of solicitation, and it's illegal. It's allegedly, if all of this happened, if we can prove this, it's illegal activity. It's a violation of state law. I mean, the state law is pretty clear about this. Can't do it on government property. All right. You guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Love you so much. Nobody's above the law except Epstein, Tony Fauci, Hunter Biden, and Lizzie Johnson. You guys have a blessed day. We'll talk again tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. Until 8 a.m. We'll be back.